Hello, everybody. It's 12:30 here in South Africa, which means it's time for another 2 hours of live at the waterhole. And today you are with me, Ben Coley, and I will be sharing hopefully some interesting insights, perhaps even of what looks like to be a black-headed heron here at Mantis Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape. If you are just joining us for the first time, we have access to many, many cameras across southern and eastern Africa, thanks to our partnerships with people like African. And this is live and interactive for the next couple of hours. So you are invited and, in fact, encouraged to send through your comments and questions to me, and I will, as always, do my absolute best to answer them for you. But what a lovely way to start. I'm trying to recall the last time I saw a black-headed heron on one of our cameras. We see the grey herons quite regularly, which do indeed look rather similar and do overlap in terms of distribution. But this is most definitely a black-headed heron. You can see the very dark appearance on the top of the head and that sort of mottled neck that they have. So nice to see. You never know what's going to turn up. Maybe today is the day we get something ridiculous and outrageous to enjoy. But beautiful sort of charcoal-esque markings running down the back of the throat. Having a little drink there. Very much an overlap in terms of the distribution, but I don't know if well, I think I must have seen a black-headed heron somewhere in the Kruger area at some point, but 9.5 out of 10 of them do seem to be grey herons. So the easiest way is to look at the head, look at that very dark neck running all the way down to the body, whereas the grey heron has basically a whitish neck and just a black stripe across the head. And then in flight, it is possible to tell the difference between them, certainly. The black-headed heron in flight, you'll notice a much greater contrast between the primary and the secondary, so white at the front of the wing and black at the back, whilst the grey is, generally speaking, mostly grey. But very nice to see, and lovely to see such a close-up view of one having a drink. I see we've got a few comments coming through already. Deb D, welcoming me. Thank you, Deb D. Welcome to you as well. Mercedes Ben is joining us again, saying greetings to the Wild Earth crew and chatters. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you as well, Mercedes Ben. Just grabbing little mouthfuls of water by the look of it. I don't think he's interested in anything else. Yes, you can see the way he's just scooping up a little bit in that lower mandible and then tipping the head back. They are unable to suck water up like a straw. The only bird species or bird family that at least I am aware of that can do so is the doves, the Columbidae family. But speaking of birds that eat fish, I was out on a reserve called Makalali yesterday, enjoyed a full day of bush time, and I have to say the highlight of the day was watching a pied kingfisher catch a pretty large tilapia fish and then sat on a rock in front of us about 10 meters away and bludgeoned this poor tilapia into submission before swallowing it. It still amazes me how elasticated the esophagus must be to swallow such a large fish, but watching him trying to manipulate it, stunning it into submission, and then putting it head first, so all the scales and any of the little spines are pointed in the right direction to facilitate a smooth path down the throat into the will be the proventriculus and the gizzard, was pretty amazing. And we were very, very fortunate to see it at such close quarters. Sandy Franklin, you're joining us as well, hoping to find some fur and claws this morning. Well, I know it is the alleged Saturday Saturday. I also hope so, Sandy Franklin. I'm not overly optimistic just based on the time of day, but you just never know. Certainly here in the Lowfells, it's relatively cool today. There is, I'm not even going to call it a breeze, there is a bit of a gale blowing. I think we've got some slightly inclement weather coming in. There are a few clouds in the sky, so one assumes we've got a front approaching. There's a lovely example of those contrasting primary and secondary feathers of the black-headed heron, doing some investigative work into the armpit region. But look at those beautiful fingers of the feathers, and you will normally find that the trailing edge of those feathers are black because that shows the presence of the pigment of melanin, which is a very strong pigment, and that keeps those feathers strong and stops them from disintegrating, which, to be quite honest, if that happened, the bird would probably fall out of the sky, or at least have less control over its flight. So that's why you see a lot of primaries of birds have black or an excess of melanin to strengthen them. Sandy Franklin, you're saying it's your first black-headed heron. Well, there you go. I would say you've broken your duck, but maybe we should say that you've broken your heron. And Spas, you're saying you haven't seen a black-headed heron for a while in Founders Lodge. I'm glad we are able to tick that one off for you. And Shiv, you're saying there are thunderstorms in the UK. I'm sorry to hear that, but I know you've had a spell of very warm heatwave weather up in the UK. My mother has been very happy, and she will be delighted to hear that there are thunderstorms in the UK because she's currently living up on a little jaunt to France, where hopefully they're having slightly better weather. But Shiv, glad this has given you a good excuse to join us today at Live at the Waterhole. And as you say, bring on the beasties. Yeah, who knows what we will see. But this is really a rather magnificent view of this black-headed heron, looking very regal and very proud of, I'm going to say itself, because I don't believe there is any what we call dimorphism between the two sexes. So very hard to tell the difference between the two of them. I'm just now going to double check if there are any subtle differences that I can share with you, but as far as I know, they are pretty much identical. Yeah, it just says sexes alike, as I thought. So really you would have to watch the interactions between a pair to try and figure out who is the male and who is the female. Okay, but a really glorious monochromatic heron to start the day. We are going to take a trip slightly north up the eastern coastline of South Africa to Tembe Elephant Park in Maputo.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. My scariest moment is when it happened twice. The other time I was with Cedric and the other time I was with Steve. And all those times it was a black mamba. My favorite meal in camp is gonna be burger and chips.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Thousand years ago, but could be as far back as 35 million years ago. The earliest of their ancestors of the Gomphothea species or genus or family. I'm still trying to work out the taxonomical history. But that was something interesting to find out, and I'm sure there are many other weird and wonderful designs of elephant ancestors if one really digs into the fossil record. Quite amazing path a lot of these creatures, including ourselves, have traced to what we know so well today. James Entwistle, you're saying it's thundery showers in Scotland. It sounds like it's a bit of a sketchy weather day all round for everybody then. Good day to Double P, saying hello to everybody. And Sandy Franklin, the heron, you're asking how tall it is. According to my sources here, it's about 92 centimetres, which is very specific, so let's say just under a metre. Beautiful to see this elephant enjoying a good little mud bath under the watchful gaze of some impala, adorning his back. Looks like he may have a little bit of a bee in his bonnet. We'll see if he has an issue with these impalas in the direction that he is walking. I wonder if he's going to give them a little shake of the head or a whoosh of the trunk. And possibly. Could have been an eye scratch. But something bothered him whilst he was having his little dust bath. He looked over rather quizzically at something. A couple of young bulls, maybe he was getting feisty and he knew it was time for a little bit of a wrestle. Again, nothing aggressive here, just flexing some muscles, establishing some hierarchies, practicing for when it becomes very, very serious. These are still relative youngsters, late teens, early 20s, I would think, looking at their size and general bulk, but it is unlikely that they are going to have to engage in a full-blooded battle for females for another few years yet. Remember, the one on the left is definitely the larger, also would suggest that with the tusks. But generally you're going to be in your 30s as a bull elephant before you really have true mating opportunities. I think the larger one is very much proclaiming his dominancy now, grabbing his tail. How sweet. But so this is all fun. You saw a little touch of the trunk to the mouth. There's no full-on aggression here at all. It's going to give him a little nudge in the bottom. Shiv, you're asking if the tusk can get so long it actually impairs the elephant's moving and eating. Yeah, it can do. It doesn't happen very often now just because the genetics of really big tusks have unfortunately all been hunted out over the years. But if you ever get the chance to go to the Letaba Elephant Museum or just go and have a look at the famous big tuskers, the magnificent 7 tuskers of the Kruger, some of those tusks were so long that I remember seeing one in the Letaba Museum where the bases of the tusks have been sort of eroded away because they were dragged along the floor or bulldozed along the floor whilst the elephant was moving. So yes, under extreme circumstances, it can become problematic. I would think not so much for feeding, but more just for general movement and getting stuck in things, and it probably would be far more difficult to learn to use that tusk to perform more subtle operations like stripping bark off trees. You'd have to stand an awful long way back to get the tip into the trunk of the tree to strip away some of that cambium layer. But it's not really a problem that we see in this day and age, those really big tuskers. Unfortunately, not many of them around. There are some emerging tuskers in Kruger that you can go and have a look at. Have a look on the Sandparks website, and there's various ones listed in there, but those original individuals really were rather impressive. Lenny, you're enjoying the sound. I only seem to have a little bit of ambient sound, but I've just seen that my laptop was turned down a little bit, but I, even with that, did hear some clashing of ivory there. And it does make such a big difference, particularly from a guiding perspective or just a general enjoyment. We have many senses, well, 5 senses at least, and it's important to utilize those and take care to consider all of those. The bush is not just about looking at things, it's about hearing things, it's about smelling things, in some cases tasting things, but obviously please do be careful what you taste. If you're not sure, rather don't do it. What else have we got? Touch, taste, smell, sight and sound. Yeah. We try, certainly from a guiding perspective, and as somebody who's been involved in guide training over the years as well, we try and put an emphasis on utilizing all of those senses to give a more well-rounded experience. And that sort of thing is growing at the moment. There are sound safaris I've seen are beginning to crop up more and more often now, which I've done similar things with those sort of parabolic speakers, and you have little headphones on and you can hear the animals eating and hear things moving through the grass. Not to mention, obviously, listening to bird calls and all the other sounds, insects during the summer. But it is something, it's quite powerful if you've never tried it before, to just sit quietly and listen to a herd of buffalo or a herd of elephants move through the grass. And you don't have to have really sophisticated equipment to make that happen. Just by cupping your ears, so putting your palms behind your ears and sort of pushing your ears forward a little bit, what you're ultimately doing is increasing the catchment area of the pinnae of your ears, and that can actually increase your ability to hear by around about 30%, which makes a huge difference, and it's a good way to pinpoint sound as well. Particularly nice to do at night time when your hearing is elevated even more because your sight is compromised a little bit. A beautiful pair of African jacanas here as well, with that lovely blue sort of casque on the front of their head, on their upper bill. Always love their enormous spaghetti-like feet that they've got to spread out their surface area as they're walking across the aquatic vegetation there, also known as lily trotters. And some frolicking impalas. Yeah, I think we are going to head up to Kenya now. Let's go check in at Oldonyo. Three big bulls, much bigger and chunkier than the ones we were just seeing, the older bulls. And how lovely to see a couple of eland as well. Davina, you're saying you've never understood how to tell a male elephant from a female based on the head shapes. Well, now's a good opportunity. Look at the one on the right, particularly. You can see that it's rather dome-shaped. If you trace a line from the forehead up to the back of the neck, it's quite a smooth curve across the top of the skull. It's a more rounded forehead. A female elephant has a far more angular head, so it's almost straight along the top of the head and then straight down the bridge of the nose, with a very obvious, not quite 90 degrees, but a very obvious kink in that angle. So it's far less rounded and far more angular. It is only a rule of thumb, however. You will find elephants that have more angular heads, or males that have more angular heads and females that have more rounded heads. But generally speaking, if it's a nice curve like we're seeing there, it's a male. The female's far more angular. Beautiful big eland bull there. See his bulk. So take a mental snapshot of these bulls, and then if we're lucky enough to see a breeding herd or some female elephants somewhere, we will revisit that and see. It's strangely a difficult thing to put into words, but this is rounded, females far more angular in shape, or that sort of the crest of the skull is more sharper.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is Jen. He's driving. Yo, you gotta be holding on back in there, yeah? Like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, yeah, he's driving. Yo, you gotta put your seatbelt.
This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
But nature is beyond amazing. Nature is just everything.
We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments about biology, Africa, safari. She's using her tail like a monkey.
Cat Fan, I agree with you. It's very, very rare to see elephant cows or breeding herds, female elephants at Oldonyo. In fact, I don't think I ever have. I'm sure they have been around. You're wondering why. I have also wondered that. My best educated guess, based on looking into the area, is that the area around Oldonyo, which is in the Chulu Hills of Kenya, has no perennial water sources. It's quite mountainous. So during the dry season, the water is hard to come by. It's probably one of the reasons that this waterhole that is pumped and is supplied for the benefit of the animals is so popular. It's always hustling and bustling with activity. There are other reserves like Savo not too far away from here, which have far better perennial rivers or permanent water sources. At least I have not been to these areas, so I can't categorically state that. And if you're a breeding herd and you've got youngsters, you do not want to have to traverse over massive distances to find water each time. Bulls are far more nomadic and they do cover far bigger distances. They're able to handle a little bit of water stress better than the youngsters. So my educated guess that it just doesn't make sense for the herds with the amount of pressure and stress it puts on the youngsters to have to travel big distances in between water points. Another nice big bull who's joined us with some very tatty ears and a floppy ear at that. One of those cartilaginous issues to which I'm still no closer to figuring out if there is a specific cause, if it's a genetic thing. I used to think maybe it was an injury during their youth, but they all seem to have that same fold, or the fold always seems to be in around about the same place, and I can't believe that they all injure themselves in exactly the same place. Unless it is a particular sort of nerve or muscle right down that area that can get affected. So I can only assume that it is a genetic thing. Yeah, it looks like everybody is pretty chilled here at Oldonyo. We'll obviously keep an eye on it in case any of these bulls do develop an issue with one another. But let's take a trip down to Tau in Madikwe and catch up with some of the water birds of that area. A beautiful red-knobbed coot with his little hat on there. And the rather comical spoonbill probing around for anything interesting under the surface there. Very strange design, that what we call spatulate bill structure that they have. Basically what they'll be doing, they've got special sort of nerve cells on the beak there. Trying to remember their specific name. I want to say Pacinian corpuscles. I think they're Pacinian, or that might be the ones on the elephants. But either way, they have got, say, specific little nerve endings there, and they brush the bill through the water with it open. And should they feel anything make contact with the bill, it will slam shut like a mousetrap and grab whatever it is that falls into there. It's always amusing to see it say nature's diversity is pretty impressive, and there are some very unusual designs. They're quite the purpose of this little sort of double looped crown that the coots have, because you do get it in both sexes, so it's not a sexual selection thing. I'm not sure whether males would have more prominent or higher set little red crowns like that. That's something I'd need to check. But of course, colour very important for birds because they do see in colour, whereas many other animals just have bichromatic vision, so they're just seeing two colours, unlike us who see in three colours. So they see more muted colours, can't see some colours as well as other things. But important for breeding purposes, for finding ripe fruits or distinguishing ripe fruits from unripe fruits. The birds do have a very good sense of sight, not to mention their ability to see in the ultraviolet spectrum, and also potentially to be able to see in polarizing light as well. Mr. Elemental, you're joining us from a rainy Perth in Western Australia. Wildlife lady, you were enjoying a scene at Oldonyo. I am sure you were. Always an elephant fest up there. Mercedes Vin, you say you think that elephant was Mr. Floppy Ear. I wasn't aware he had an official name. Not the most original, I might add, but descriptive. And you say One Ton gave him a shove a few weeks ago. I think I actually saw that episode, if we're going to call it that. I think Kelly was doing live at the waterhole that day, and I do recall seeing One Ton poke one of the other bulls. All right, let's head over to Moella. To a very impressive array of zebras enjoying, it's unfortunately just a little muddy puddle. Interesting they're all in there and ignoring the muddy puddle to the left. Even that one thought about it, whether there's some sort of algae or something happening in there. Maybe it's just a bit too shallow for them. I don't know this area, I've not been, whether that is also maybe being fed by some sort of trickle pipe, so that is cleaner water, would also make sense. Ivan, you're asking if there have been any stargazing spectaculars of late. Well, nothing out of place, Ivan. I haven't found any little green men or spaceships zipping around above my head yet, although I hope every night that I'm out that will be the case. Well, I've had some lovely evenings. I've been incredibly busy doing stargazing evenings and astronomy training at lodges and things over the last few weeks, but haven't seen anything completely unexpected, but this is such a good time of year if you do have a telescope or if you enjoy astrophotography with the Milky Way in full force, the core of the galaxy, and all the interesting nebulae and star clusters and things that we find in that region of the sky, because you're looking towards the center of the galaxy where most of the stuff is. That's where you find most of the objects to look at. So some highlights that I've thoroughly enjoyed was seeing the Eagle Nebula again recently and snapping a couple of pictures of it for people out on the evenings. And if you don't know the Eagle Nebula, that's the home to that very famous Hubble, and since its arrival, James Webb, of those pillars of creation, those finger-like structures that are light years in size, that are spawning baby stars. They're little maternity wards for stars, or stellar incubators for stars. Very, very special to be able to see it. Can't really see it with the naked eye or through a telescope. It's just a cloudy patch, but with a camera you can start picking up that structure. I have been informed that this little patch of water is indeed pumped, so that would explain why the zebras are choosing the cleaner water. But there are various mentions of zebra in the night sky in African star lore as well. The 3 stars of Orion's belt were seen by the Bushmen as 3 zebra. The Maasai in Kenya apparently saw the shape of the Southern Cross as a zebra as well. So there are mentions. And if you just want a horse, of course, we have the great winged horse of Pegasus as a constellation in its own right. Wow, that's a lot of zebras. And not forgetting the little constellation called Equus, which is right next to Pegasus, which is also sort of a horse's head. Not mafia-based, as far as I'm aware, but sometimes considered the offspring of Pegasus, in the stars at least. Hello, Wendy H. You're saying it's a lovely day in PE. I think you're the first person who said it's a lovely day who's joining us, so do enjoy it, because it seems to be not so nice in other areas today. And hello to Dark Main Lover as well. Glad you could join us. Lucy Khadia, what is the population of zebra at Muella? Lucy, I have absolutely no idea. I'm just going to go with a lot. But it will change at different times of year. There is a migration of zebras in the Botswanan area. You've got the Boteti River close to here, and all the zebras are benefiting from that at the moment. That's why they're in this area. So the population will change depending on the availability of resources, particularly water, which is normal. The whole migration of East Africa is driven by the rains and the animals following the rains at the good grazing. But based on what we've seen thus far, Lucy, many thousands. Nice to see those established game paths, which have been there for many years, that the animals generally will choose to take. Easiest path to take on the hooves, particularly in the wetter season when there's a lot more vegetation around.
This unfolds in front of you.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have 2 boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my 2 boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Out here, every wild moment matters, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel, ad-free 24/7, where you can even rewind and watch something again. Get access to behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and access to early travel offers. It is the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
and our reach of cameras. If anyone wants to count the number of zebra visible here at Moella, feel free. Listen to this. I do love that sound. But Penelope Kenyon, you're saying that the zebra migration in this area can number over 200,000. Well, I stand by what I said before of a lot in that case, but that is an awful lot of stripes, certainly. But there must be, just having had the camera pan around a couple of times, there must be many thousands of zebras within the zoom of the camera today. So I'm not going to sit here and count them all. It will be very confusing. And I'd hate to get a few thousand in and then lose my place and have to start again. So if you're saying, does such a large number of zebra have a detrimental effect on the grassland? Well, yes and no. Grass is designed to be eaten most of the time. It's evolved that way. The growing points of grass are very low down, not at the top, and it encourages new growth. This is that we're going to come back to that sort of same old argument of if we put artificial water, then the animals don't go anywhere. So the vegetation never has a chance to recover. Yes, for a short period of time during any migration, that area is going to get hammered by the zebras, by the foot traffic, by all the grazing, but it's also going to benefit from all the nutrients and the fertilizer that is deposited into the soil and trodden into the soil by all of those hooves. And then when the migration moves on, weather conditions change, the animals are forced to follow the water elsewhere, that area then has a chance to recover and benefit from all those nutrients that have been added to the soil. So it's swings and roundabouts. It works, but if we're going to put a fence around something and put a permanent water source and massive numbers of animals like this don't go anywhere, then yes, it will certainly have a detrimental effect. You'll end up with overgrazing. And in the long term, you'll end up with different species of grass that proliferate there because they prefer those sorts of overgrazed areas. You'll get an influx of wooded plants because the competition for the moisture and the nutrients has been removed. All the grass has been taken away, so that the trees start to do well, and over much longer time periods, you will ultimately end up changing the ecosystem in terms of what it is made out of from a vegetation perspective. Mr. Elemental, you are being completely dazzled. I'm not surprised. I think we all are. And Helga from a wet KZN Midlands, you're enjoying how the zebras follow those paths. It's a little road network. We use them as well when we walk in the bush. It's just easier, softer on the feet, it's quieter, there's less ticks. It's just like water will always follow the path of least resistance. Same with the animals, and it leaves these sort of spider webs, and obviously you can sort of watch as they will get more numerous closer to water sources as the animals spread out, and then a bit like rivers splitting, the further away from the water you get, those paths will join and you'll end up with fewer pathways. So if you're ever lost in the bush and you want to find water and you're on a game path, if you discover that it keeps sort of splitting in the area in which you're walking, there's a very good chance that you're either getting to somewhere with very good grazing or you are approaching water. All right, I think we're all a bit zebraed out at Moella now. Let's head back up to Kenya and Old Dondo. Where we have some more zebra. Trying to find an opportunity to get into the water in between these great elephants. Right, lots of comments coming through today. Jen Mack, you're saying hello from London, and it's also raining there today, but it's much cooler and blissful after the heat over the last few weeks, and you're loving it. Uh, Speaking for someone, I'm allowed to say this as I am English. I'm sure that people will start moaning about the rain soon if it continues. But yes, I know what it can be like, particularly if you're in somewhere like London or any big city, all those buildings and tarmac and all the man-made objects radiating the heat. It's brutally warm there, so enjoy it. I hope it cools down a little bit, but the rain abates. It's also, say, raining and cold in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. How strange. It seems to be a global phenomenon today. And Sandy, frankly, you're asking why are there so many zebras in one place? I assume you're referring to Moella. It's, as we were saying, it's seasonal migrations, which does happen in that area of Botswana. It's where the rain is. Ah, here we are back again. It's where the Boteti River is doing rather well. That's attracting animals to that area. It's all about availability of resources. Okay, looks like we had an issue with Aldonia. Quick stop at Moella, but let's go back down to Tembe. Have we got a breeding herd or just a lot of youngsters? Surely that's a breeding herd. Hopefully we can see a female and look at the head shape. For who was it who was asking? Davina. Davina, if you're still watching, hopefully we can find you an angular head of an elephant cow. And Dark Main Lover, you are absolutely enjoying all the new cams and locations and saying variety is good indeed. It is the spice of life, as they say. Oh wow, Deb D, it's also raining in Pennsylvania at the moment. But I certainly haven't seen too many breeding herds down here at Tembe, normally dominated by the bulls. Right, let's have a look. Well, this female on the left, you can see the one who's drinking, she's streaming a bit from the temporal glands. Let's just wait, yeah. Oh, it's a bit more like an Indian elephant-shaped head, almost like a sort of a raised bump. But hopefully you can see that just sort of at the top of the head, at the forehead, there's definitely more of an angle in the cows than there is in the bulls, more often than not. I would say I haven't seen any yet which are really obvious. It's normally becomes more apparent with age. It is far simpler just to look between the back legs, if I'm honest. But there you can see that is definitely an angular structure. But say, almost oddly bulbous as well in this female. Yeah, one at the back again. Very flat on the forehead, and then a sharp turn. Look at the youngster as well. A good example. That's a very angular forehead for that youngster. Kathy, you're saying Tembe always looks so peaceful. I would agree with you. It's a very, very picturesque scene. Oh, look at that floppy ear. I think all the green vegetation also helps give it a slightly more tranquil nature. Shiv, you're saying your allotment needs the rain, so you'll tolerate it for the weekend, and then you want the sun back next week. That's fair enough. Yeah, everything in moderation.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing, and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
Hyenas love bathing.
Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife. And stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Yeah, look at that nice angular forehead of this old cow here compared to the more dome shapes that we were seeing up at Old Onyo. So hopefully that has explained it. Also, lacking any tusks, this one as well, by the look of it. Got a very, very floppy ear. We see a few floppy ears, but I don't remember seeing as floppy an ear as that before. Whether that's age again, which has accentuated the flop, I'm not sure. Maybe losing a little bit of elasticity in the skin, a bit of integrity in the conditioning and the strength of the skin is just accentuating the fact. Duncan, you were asking, do zebras migrate alone in Botswana? No, they won't be alone, but they do seem to form the bulk of the animals that are involved in this migration. So it's quite normal in the dry season to say hundreds of thousands of zebras in one place, but there will also be wildebeest, there'll be predators associated that are following those herds as well. And then once the wet season arrives, all the pans will fill up. That Bateti Valley becomes less important, and all those herbivores will spread out over a much larger area across the Mkharihari and those areas after the rain. They'll be grazing everywhere, less pressure for the animals to congregate where resources are available, and so give an opportunity for that area to recover for 6 months of the year or more. A couple of floppy-eared elephants there. Both look, well, one looks slightly older than the other. I wonder if they're related. Are they sisters? Is it mother and daughter? Perhaps that idea of ear floppiness being a genetic thing, we can see that happening there. But say, purely a theory of mine at the moment. I'm still undecided. Robin McLean in Victoria in Australia, you're saying it's dry but very cold this evening. I hope you're watching the rugby, the Lions against Australia. I'm purposely not looking at the score because I'm hoping to catch the highlights a little bit later. And sorry, Robin, but I will be supporting the Lions. But a good weekend of sport ahead, certainly. South Africa taking on, I think it's Georgia later. We had the third test of New Zealand-France earlier this morning, and of course the Open Golf Championship at Royal Portrush. Round 3 has just started, but I won't give any facts or scores or figures in case some of you like me are hoping to enjoy the highlights later. Janet, you're in Cyprus and it's 40 degrees most of the summer and you haven't had any rain this year. That's not good for the vegetation and for any animals around. And you're telling us we should all enjoy the cold and the rain, and you wish you were here. What's that? If you could ask me to design the perfect climate, it would be warm but not overly hot during the daytime. Then we will have clear night skies up till around about 1 o'clock in the morning, at which point I start to get too tired. Then it could by all means rain between sort of, let's say the rain can start at 2 and then finish again at about 5 and then repeat. That would be ideal for game viewing, for stargazing, and for the vegetation and the animals to be happy. So if anyone's listening and can facilitate that, if there's any dance that you can do to specifically request those conditions, please do so. Another nice angular-headed elephant there. Right, sounds like we're going to go somewhere else. I was too busy chatting and didn't hear where. Let's go have a look. Back to Tau. There's a waterbuck and some impalas. All the waterbucks having a nice rest. We can see some ruminating going on, regurgitation of that food from the rumen, and just redigesting everything, breaking it up into little particles, that bacteria-rich saliva and that sort of soup in the rumen, doing a great job breaking down that cellulose and things that are not that easy to digest, making it simpler for the latter of the stomachs, the amarsum and the abomarsum, to extract available nutrition and moisture, and a good chance for the animals to just take a little bit of a rest as well. It's a therapeutic thing to ruminate. It's relaxing. A few waterbuck venturing out into the water. We know there are quite a few crocs that hang out in this area. I have seen crocs feeding on waterbuck that have been taken, so I hope they are being wary. I guess it looks as if they're feeding on some aquatic vegetation there as opposed to having a drink. Yeah, it's interesting to see. Obviously the lure of some nice moist vegetation is more than the potential risk of crocs. There's a couple of crocs watching on from the sandbank, bit of a role reversal. Who have we got here? White-faced whistling ducks. Well, there's proof. Nice mouthful of some sort of aquatic vegetation being pulled out there by the waterbuck. And a dark mane lover, you're asking, could we do anything about an elephant with a floppy ear? Could vets help them, or is it a permanent thing? Dark mane lover, I'm not a vet, so I don't know, but I've never heard of that being done. I don't know how they would be able to fix that. You know, from an ethical standpoint, I would certainly argue that it wouldn't be worth it. The elephant is still doing all right. It might be a bit annoying, might make it a little bit harder in terms of thermoregulation and things, but I would see no point in risking tranquilizing the elephant and the stress that it would have to go through to fix that problem, or that affliction, if we would call it that. I don't think you would be able to fix it, to be honest, short of sort of splinting the ear somehow, or rebuilding something. So I don't think so, Dark Mane Lover, but we would need a vet or some sort of wildlife surgery specialist to tell me whether it would even be possible. Catherine Hudson, you're saying if there's an ongoing drought, you're saying in Madikwe, I don't know whether it is officially drought status up there. It is the dry season, so dryness is expected this time of year. But you're asking, would grazing be supplemented? Ultimately, Catherine, that is going to come down to the reserve management, their policies and the decisions that are being made. But in many reserves, yes, they will supplementary feed. And I think we have an obligation to do so to some extent. I understand it's a natural system, and I am all for allowing nature to take its course, but it doesn't change the fact that regardless of how big an area is, if we put a fence around it and we stop those animals from being able to, under their own steam, go and look for better opportunities and better resources, then I feel we are obligated to at least provide them with something. It's not something we should do unless we have to, because the whole point of these areas is to keep them as natural as possible. But if we are restricting their movement and making it impossible for them to find resources, then yes, supplementary feeding is an option, and say many reserves do. I cannot categorically state whether Madikwe does or not. I know some of our guides have worked in that area. They would be better equipped to answer the specifics, but I have no doubt that they would certainly consider it.
I met this remarkable rhino bull, whose name is Samson, last year in a place of extraordinary beauty, history and story. I'm going back there to see him in October, and I think you should come with me to his mysterious mountain fastness.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh! This is action-packed.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. Over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions,
Animals rely on their senses.
share your thoughts, and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. Become a member. You can gain access to the channel ad-free, you can rewind and re-watch sightings, and you can join our Tuesday live safaris. There's also behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and every Safari Live episode, whenever you want it. It's just a better way to stay connected to nature.
Higher here, so it makes sense to have slightly narrower horns, otherwise they become a hindrance and they get stuck on everything. But in these more drier, arid, open areas, then those horns regionally seem to be wider spread. Now, Janet, you're saying that it's interesting that antelopes recognise land predators on sight, but they don't worry about the crocs. I can assure you, Janet, they know that the crocs are there, but they also, I suppose, difficult to not anthropomorphise it, but they trust the crocodile a little bit more. They can see the crocodile, they know it's not going to chase after them like a lion or a leopard or a cheetah would do. They are more active at night time. Yeah, there's always a risk, but very rarely will a crocodile take a pot shot at something walking past it while it's on land. It does amaze me how close they get sometimes. It's like an unspoken truce that if you can see me and I'm on the bank or the shoreline, that the crocodile is almost agreeing to not having a crack at one of these things. But yeah, it's just association, I think, of genetic knowledge really that's been passed down through generation to generation, that they are not a particular risk when out of the water. Ivan, you're in a rainy North Carolina as well. You're asking, speaking of senses, what is the rankest smell you've ever encountered in the bush? Well, lion scat is pretty vile, I'm not going to lie, especially if you accidentally drive over it and it gets stuck on the tyres. That smell just permeates the air and follows you for ages until you give your tyres a good hose down and get it all out of the tread in the tyres. I think the worst smell that I personally can recall off the top of my head many years ago now, but was actually at a rhino carcass in the Sabi Sands. I'm glad to say, it's from a poaching incident. It was actually killed by another rhino. There was a fight between the two of them. And yeah, that was there for a long time. It was summer. And the stench was unbearable. That smell of death and decay is, I think we are also just tuned in to knowing that is a fairly horrific smell. But it was very interesting. There were vultures, the lions were camped out there. It was a great sighting for a long time. But it got to the point that we were having to take precautions. You certainly parked upwind wherever was possible. If the wind changed, you moved. And thankfully for us, there was a patch of wild mint growing not too far away from where that sighting was. And I think over the course of about a week, we completely destroyed that area of wild mint, picking it and basically giving it to guests to hold under their nose so that it wasn't so unpleasant. I think that's the worst that I can recall off the top of my head. Carlos, you're asking if kudus are solitary. The bulls usually are, or the bigger, older bulls are, but you will also find them in bachelor groups as well, but it's not unusual to find one on its own. The females and the young generally stay together in little breeding herds, but no kudus are territorial over an area. They don't scent mark, they don't defend their area. And a male will only, or a big male like this, will only join a breeding herd if there is a female in estrus. He will hang around, do what needs to be done, and once he feels he has achieved his goals, he will leave the herd again. He plays no role in the bringing up of any offspring. So bachelor herds or solitary for males, and females always in small groups. Yes, Rose, I think the animals would be far more vigilant if those crocs were in the water, if they knew that they were there. But animals are always tentative around deeper water for crocs, but you've got to drink. So it's a risk-reward situation, but for the waterbuck to actually wade out into the water like this, they either do have a great amount of trust in the crocodiles and are fairly confident there's nothing else, or they feel it's worth the risk of a potential crocodile attack based on the fact that they need sustenance. Mr. Wright, what's the most surprising thing that I've learned about crocodiles? Well, crocodiles are weird things. I mean, they're incredible things. I'm petrified of crocodiles more so than any other animal out here. It is a thing designed for one purpose, and that is to kill. It is the ultimate predator. But in terms of surprising things, I think maybe the number of teeth they go through in their lifetime. I was pretty amazed by that when I heard about that. They constantly replacing teeth, and it's not uncommon for a croc to have between 4,000 to 6,000 teeth during its lifetime, constantly replacing teeth that are broken. Either that or their incredible heart. All reptiles have a 3-chambered heart, except crocodiles that have a 4-chambered heart. Makes them far more efficient, makes them able to spend longer time underwater. And also their ability to decide where to send oxygenated blood to make the most of it and allow them to hold their breath longer, and to also send excess carbon dioxide that is being produced by the body into the stomach, because that is important in the production of stomach acid, which crocodiles obviously need to have a very strong stomach acid as they swallow their prey pretty much, well, not exactly whole, but bones and fur and horn and everything else goes down there. So I can't remember what their specific pH is, but we're talking like 1 or 1 point something, so battery acid strength to help digest and dissolve all those things they eat. So the crocodile's heart and that specialized valve, which is called a foramen of Panizza, which is what sends the oxygenated blood to the correct areas of the animal. And its lack of dentistry requirements. Okay, but lots of activity down here at Tau, but let's take a trip back up to Oldonyo in Kenya. Now the zebras have found an opportunity. Clustered together on the opposite side of the waterhole. Sorry about that noise. I have a very creaky chair today, it seems. Deb D, you asking other mammals like skunks who spray horrendous scents to stop predators? Yeah, there are. Civets can spray an unpleasant smell. We have polecats and things down here which can also do the same. Um, there are, I'm sure, others. I'm struggling to think of them off the top of my head. My brain went straight to certain insects and things there. We have things called blister beetles, the ground beetles, the ants bombardier beetles. These can all spray noxious fluids. We even have things called nuzzulate termites, which is a certain caste of soldier termites that can squirt a sort of a sticky, unpleasant fluid, which they'll spray at intruding ants and things. So we see it lots in the animal kingdom. The mammals, yeah, civets. I'm sure there are other things as well. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but I've no doubt that there are. The Mustelidae family, as the name suggests, out here would certainly be doing things like that. I'm trying to rack my brains as to what else is in the Mustelidae family now. Sure, the honey badgers can. I don't think they can, but that's one that's also thought about. My silence tells you that I'm just double checking, see what I can think of. Yeah, honey badgers can. I don't think they do it very often. They rely on their ferocity more than anything. Striped polecat was suggested. Porcupines can release a foul anal secretion. Civet, yes. Yeah, those are the main ones. Double P, you're asking why zebras' legs seem to twitch. As far as I know, it's just irritation from biting flies and things. It's just like you swatting a fly off your arm because it's itching. If that fly is trying to bite, then it's a fast movement that causes the fly to take off. I don't know of any other reasons why they would do it, but as far as I know, yeah, it's just a reaction to things on the skin. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of flies buzzing around all of these animals. Now, speaking of flies and insects and scent and smells and dehydration of plants in dry seasons, I read something very interesting the other day about plants and moths. So we think of plants as fairly inanimate objects a lot of the time. We do, however, know that they can communicate through pheromones, what we call jasmination, very famous in the cluster leaf group, the terminalias, in the formerly known as acacias, of releasing scents into the air and warning trees around them that they are being fed upon, so that those trees can generate their own defenses. But recent studies have also suggested that plants also make sounds when they are under stress as well, like little popping sounds, inaudible to us, but can be picked up with the right equipment. And it's been believed for a while that insects would be able to hear that. And they did an experiment recently with tomato plants that were under stress, were dehydrated, and they wanted to see whether a female moth would be able to pick up on these sounds and whether it would influence which tomato plant she laid her eggs on. So they did a variety of experiments by playing the noise and seeing if it was unattractive to the moths, and then having two plants, one with a microphone playing the noise of a dehydrated plant and one that wasn't. And they found what certainly seemed to be a correlation that under those circumstances, with that noise being present, the female moth would almost always choose to lay her eggs on the plant that wasn't giving off a sound of being distressed or dehydrated, which would make perfect sense because the larvae of those moths, the caterpillars, need to feed on that plant. And if that plant is dehydrated and desiccated and doesn't have much good stuff in it, it's fairly futile to offer that to your young for feeding opportunities. So I'm sure there's more research to be done. That knowledge of plants making sounds has been around for a little while, but I think this was the first official study that showed that insects seem to be able to key off that noise and choose which plants that they're going to lay their eggs on based on the potential quality of the larval food. How cool is it that even in today's age we're finding out all this new and interesting stuff and all these communications and choices that are being made by animals based on stuff that our primitive senses are unable to pick up on.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
You see him put his trunk down onto the mud there. What he's actually doing is attaching his trunk exactly over the pipe and sucking up the clean, fresh water that is being delivered. Elephants will always take the cleanest water available. And here in Dordogne, we often even see a queue for that pipe or arguments. A more dominant elephant will come in and push that one away. He will take possession of the fresh water, and the other one will be resigned to either waiting or drinking the less fresh water. You can actually, if you look very carefully, there is just sort of like a ripple just on the edge of the water there. So it must be that, there we go, we're going to see him place his trunk just looking for it. There you are. Just clamp around the edge of the pipe and take that fresh water directly into the trunk and transfer to the mouth. Excellent work, zoomies, by the way. There, you can see the water coming out of the pipe. It's quite interesting to see when he manipulated the trunk there, the skin around the tusk pulled back, and we saw the much cleaner ivory that hasn't been subjected to all the environmental factors. And now he's relaxed again. And then when he raises his trunk up and stretches it, that skin retracts a little bit, and we see the cleaner ivory. This one looks as if he's maybe making a move to try and get to the pipe. I always get the impression, say, the other ones like these two, they're just patiently waiting their turn. They respect their elder, they respect the more dominant bull, and they'd rather wait than drink the less fresh water. Like taking a ticket at the delicatessen counter. There we go. Next one into the pipe. Thank you. Different technique. The other one went for a sort of a side-on approach with the trunk. This one's going for more of a vacuum cleaner approach. Oh, there was a little fluttering of what looked like a Namakwa dove. It's just disappeared over the sort of the foreground lip of the water there. A long tail, a little slimline dove. You see the one on the left there, sort of thought about it, dips his trunk in the water and said, nah, I'm going to wait. Oh, Ed, you're asking how aware do I think elephants are of their trunk movements? Um, I would think pretty aware, Ed, because there's an awful lot of muscles, an awful lot of control that has to be learnt to make it do what they want it to do. Um, and it's pretty important to their survival. So, yeah, I think they're pretty aware. I'm sure if they're sort of dozing and they swat a fly away or something, they may not have thought too much about it. But generally speaking, there'll be conscious decisions. Certainly, we see young elephants really struggling to get to grips with the trunk and all the individual little muscles, 40 to 60,000 of them. Um, Sorry, I'm just chuckling. This other one looks as if he's got bored of waiting and just spraying water around his mouth out of this. I really want that water. I know I could have this stuff. I'm not so fussed if I drop it because I'm not impressed with the quality of it. It's very, very amusing to just sort of watch these little subtle interactions and try and figure out what's going on in their brains. It's like, oh, the other one moved away. Is there an opportunity? So no, I think trunk movements, I think, are majority of them are going to be highly conscious, I would think. Just the way you're sort of fiddling with the trunk now. I see is probably unconscious. That would be almost like you jiggling your leg or twiddling your thumbs, waiting less and less patiently for an opportunity. But again, that's just my interpretation of what we're seeing.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Do you want to know why impala are the most common antelope we find here in the Kruger National Park? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live. Connect with nature.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
to get a hold of that pipe. Just standing. Shiv, do elephant feet get wider with age due to the weight spreading them? Yeah, they do, but not just because of the weight. The foot also grows as well. Elephants grow for a vast proportion of their life. I think I'm right in saying they only stop growing by the time they get to about 40. It's subtle, of course, but you can't grow a massive bulk and a big head and all that weight to the body and then have little tiny feet. They would fall over the whole time. As amusing as that would be to watch, it wouldn't be very efficient. So the foot also increases. You can see the size of an elephant by the size of its front foot track. You could basically double the circumference of the foot will give you the shoulder height of the elephant. So it does increase incrementally with the size of the elephant in order to support that body weight and give it a stable base upon which to operate. Oop, the zebras are back. I'm beginning to feel a bit bad for this elephant on the left. He's had a little bit of a fiddle around with the water a few times. I wonder if he's not watching those zebras and thinking, oh, if they can drink it, maybe I could drink it, but I'm really not very impressed with the quality of it. Do I want to? Shall I rather wait? Yeah, interesting. Looks like he has had a little sip there, probably inspired by the zebras. But we do see that with animals quite often, sort of the repeated behavior. That's not unusual to say. For example, to see a white rhino dung midden that's also got black rhino midden. Jackals do like to defecate on top of other dung as well. Impala droppings you'll often see on a rhino midden as well. It's almost someone said, well, that's a good idea, maybe I can. But I think this youngster's decided, yeah, well, I'll have a little drink in the meantime. Doesn't matter if I spill quite a lot of it. It's not good quality H2O, as Adam Sandler would have said in The Waterboy. I'm going to call that dismissive drinking. Scott, do elephants communicate with their feet? Yes, they do, Scott. Or is communicate the right word? They can sense communication, perhaps, is a better way of putting it. They don't use their feet to give off sound or information, but such as the low frequency rumbling that they do produce when they're communicating over very large distances at such a frequency that we cannot hear, but those vibrations they travel through the ground, seismic vibrations, and we know that elephants have these things, these little corpuscles, sensory organs, particularly in the front of their feet, and they will often cock their feet to increase the surface area and actually interpret those sound waves that are being sent over large distances through the ground. There have been various experiments done to pretty much prove this. So I'm just enjoying this displacement drinking from this youngster. So, yes, in answer to your question, Scott, they communicate, sort of, interpret communication, yes. All right, but that was fascinating. I've become highly invested in this youngster's quest for the water pipe. We'll keep an eye on him, but I think we're going to go to Vic Falls where we have a giraffe coming for a drink. Beautiful big male, assuming the position. And a female. Oh, she's lost the tip of her tail. Now, from a social structure point of view, this isn't a coupled up pair who will spend all of their lives together. The fact that we've got an individual male and an individual female would lead me to think this female is potentially an estrus and the male is following her around in the hope of being able to do what he wants to do. But their social structure is a little bit vague. We don't really fully understand it. We get individual bulls, we get bachelor herds, we get groups of females, you get mixed herds. There probably is, again, more going on. There's one in the distance, there are a few others. A couple more there. So maybe just took the opportunity, or say maybe that male is particularly intrigued by that female at the moment. Towering above the vegetation. Reminds me of that scene in Jurassic Park when all the brachiosauruses, I think they are, pop their heads up from the tree line. It may have just been a coincidental drink. If that male was really interested, he would be hovering very close to the rear end of that female just to ensure that no other males would gain access before he has persuaded her that he would be worthy of her attentions. So maybe it was a little bit of safety in numbers by the waterhole.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
Would you like to know at what age a buffalo calf gets its horns? These are questions that you can ask me in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
How cool is this?
I don't remember if he had the temporal gland secretions when we were watching him sort of 10, 15 minutes ago while he was waiting. If anyone remembers or can find a screenshot, I'd be interested to know whether that has happened since or during the time we were away, and he's now finally got his opportunity, and whether that is a display of relief, excitement, gratitude, happiness that he's finally got his reward. Just remember, seeing that temporal gland secretion is not just a sign of must. So it's a heightened state of emotion is the best description I can give you for what is actually manifesting there. Notice how he is not spilling a drop of this water. Before, so when he did take a drink, he was somewhat flippant with it, spraying a lot of it around, dropping a lot of it out of his mouth. And now, I don't think I've seen a drop of water escape his gullet. And a couple of little cursory glances off to the left, and he seems to be drinking a little quicker now. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I wonder if there's not another elephant emerging from the undergrowth heading here, and he's realizing his time at the head of the table is running short. Oh no, that's a zebra muzzle. I thought that was an ear coming into shot. Oh, no sign of any other approaching elephants yet. A lot of the zebras also moved off. You have the whole thing to yourself, my boy. So cool, you can see those muscles contracting and relaxing all the way up to pretty much his forehead, just in front of his eyes as he's suctioning up that water. Still not quite sure how much water a trunk can carry. Obviously, depends on size, but I've read so many different reports. But if I remember rightly, sort of around about maybe 6 to 8 liters perhaps of water that can go up into that trunk. And a big elephant bull like this, even if he's not fully grown, probably requires a good 100 to 150 liters of water a day. And I'm sure he's not completely filling that trunk each time. There are quite a few transportations of water from trunk to mouth, transferals of water from trunk to mouth required to get a sufficient amount of moisture into that big body. Penelope Kenyon, you are very welcome, and your thanks, I'm sure, will be passed on to everybody who makes this happen, to the Zoomies, to everybody in Johannesburg, all of our affiliates that make this possible. I'm glad you've enjoyed the show. It has been a good one today. I've really enjoyed watching these elephant interactions. We see it day after day up here at Old Onyo, but it's so nice to sort of watch individual stories developing in front of your eyes and trying to interpret what is going on best we can. And I really enjoyed seeing that black-headed heron as well. He was a beautiful way to start the show. Looked incredibly regal and proud down there at Mantis Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape, and not something that we get to see all too often. And to have him so exposed in such beautiful close-ups was very, very special. But we are down to the last minute or so of the show. So thanks everybody, as always, for your questions and for your comments. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a good one. Don't forget that the teams will be out at our respective locations for the Sunset Safari in the not too distant future. So do stick around for that. In the meantime, whatever you have planned for the rest of your Saturday, I hope it is a good one. For those of you with inclement weather, I hope things improve, but enjoy the cool weather whilst you can. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you soon. I'm not sure when I'm back on. I'll have to check my schedule, but it is always a pleasure and an honor to bring these pictures to you. But have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you very, very much.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be discovering a real wildlife gems of South Africa. This is a virtual safari filled with beauty, wildlife and stories. We're going to be visiting unique and diverse reserves, spending time with famous animal characters and learning some real conservation stories. So remember, if any of the locations featured on Safari Spotlight interest you,